Meeting of February the 16th. To order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Orchowski?
Here.
Mr. Nestor?
Present.
Mr. Greger?
Here.
Mr. Moser?
Present. Could be a rise for a prayer by Councilman Wilson.
Heavenly Father, we come now in humble submission to you, realizing that you're a God and God alone, and that there's none like you. We thank you, Lord, for this day and for the provision of our daily needs, and ask you to go with us now in this special meeting for the purpose of moving forward with the emergency demolition of 500 Garner Avenue. We need your wisdom and your guidance and direction. Just please put those persons in our path who will be able to help us bring this to pass. We give you all honor and glory and praise, and most of all thanks for what you're about to do. That will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.
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 Beautiful. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to invite public comment on agenda items only.
Good to see you, Ernie.
I just have a couple basic questions. First of all, who declared the building as a hazard? Like, who was the expert?
It was described to me as a hazard by our code officer, by the police, and by the fire department.
And how did they determine it? Because do they have structural engineering?
It had to do with, it's pretty obvious when there's bricks in the middle of Fifth Street.
I know, but there were bricks before.
No, not from this building.
There was something that came down, that's why there was a fence around.
They put a fence in protection, but there was bricks in the middle of the road.
Is there any way you could get somebody who could actually tell you that it's imminent, that it's gonna come down? Because if not, then we could wait a little bit to get the funding that we're trying to get.
2012, Ernie,
Yeah,
our Walt Haglund, okay, condemned the building. In 2012, it's been condemned at least 3, if not 4
I
times.
don't know, a bunch of buildings are condemned, but we're not.
There was more bricks on the road today that were not there yesterday.
Yeah. But,
okay, so let's recap for just a second. Immediately after that happening, I called our commissioners, I called the senators, I called the congressmen. I was looking for solutions. A guy by the name of Brian Lawrence came to Monessen. He is the Westmoreland County redevelopment chairman and also the chairman of the land bank. He has 2 hats, land bank or redevelopment authority. In any event, he looked at the building and he concurred too that this was of immediate danger and needed to have the road closed, and we need to keep it closed. To that end, and it's kind of interesting too, maybe I've said this before or not, I don't know, but we walked up the street and he says, oh, this is the Fifth Street Hotel. I said, yes, it is. He says, you know, that's going to be the land banks. And I said, what do you mean? He says, we've submitted that to the tax claim office to go through judicial sale. And being the land bank, they get preferential treatment and they will get that building. So that Fifth Street Hotel will be the property of the land bank effective February the 22nd, so next week. He also, I said, what are you going to do with it? He said, well, we got to demolish it. We got to come up with a plan to redo something with that building. I said, well, look at the building. On both sides of it, you have other adjoining buildings. You remove this one, they're going to collapse. So we expanded the scope of his demolition to include 3 buildings in total. So those 3 buildings will go away.
Which 3 buildings?
The Fifth Street Hotel, the building on Fifth Street that adjoins it, and the building on Schoonmaker that adjoins it.
Or BGC? No.
No.
The old library building.
In any event, they're going to remove 3 buildings. Now, they also said that they could remove the health mart. The problem with that is they're talking about sometime late summer, early fall before they get everything done. The building, the health mart building, as of today, is still throwing bricks from the top. It's disintegrating before our very eyes.
Okay, so did they promise that if you use your funds, the city funds, they're gonna reimburse you?
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
So
No,
what they're
they're-
gonna risk you?
I'm not so sure. But first off, there's lots of things at play. We've gone out to get estimates. What's it gonna cost to get rid of this building? And our city engineer can address that question probably a lot better than I can. But we had quotes that range from what, $300,000? $325,000. We had quotes that were in the 200s, and we had a quote for $78,000.
Okay, and you got one for 50,000.
No, no. So, as of today, with the cooperation of many others, we called Senator Cameron Bartolotta. She's not our area, our district, but she is a friend nonetheless. And say what you want, but if you have a problem, call a woman. Because she immediately took charge. She called Eric DeVanzia, she called Stefano, she got all of them together and said, we've got to address this. They don't need a fortune, they need something in the neighborhood of $100,000. And to that end, I do believe that we will see some money coming from that avenue in the next 24, 48 hours.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Furthermore, I think that we've been a little misled somewhat. The grant that a previous administration applied for was done through the Commonwealth Financial Authority, the CFA, which is administered through the DCED through Keystone Communities. This grant was for $199,468. It is a disbursement grant, what do you call it? A drawdown grant. When I inquired, well, what is the matching fund amount and so forth, there is none.
Yeah, but Matt said he was under the impression the new owner was gonna pick up the tab.
If there's a new owner, send him down here. We'll sell it to him real quick. Absolutely. There's not an issue with that. The problem is that this grant was defined as a rehabilitation and whatever grant. That doesn't include demolition. The problem is we need money to demolish it, in my mind, right now, because it is of immediate danger to the citizens of Monessen. With Cameron Bartolotta's support, I think that they are going to
You'll get something.
cancel that grant, rewrite the grant, using the same funds as a demolition grant, and we will have the money as demolition money.
Okay, so who is this company that's willing to wait? Are they willing to wait?
All the companies that do demolition, I think, are capable of waiting.
Well, they're capable, but which one actually said they will wait for the funds?
City engineer can address that.
Yeah, I don't want to address that, it's always the federal.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to, that nobody's, the city's just not gonna hire somebody right now. They're gonna get, and there's a motion on the agenda allowing the engineers to write a specification. There's gonna be rules that these contractors have to follow. And that's why the quotes that everybody's talking about this evening, they're just quotes, because they haven't seen those parameters yet. So those numbers could change.
Okay, but the city will try to secure a,
We're trying to find money to accomplish this, absolutely without a
You're
doubt.
gonna find somebody also that will go along with the payment plan.
Well, whatever it takes, where you're going to find somebody that will remove the building in a method that we can pay for in a timely fashion.
And this company isn't gonna touch the other one. you were talking
Right,
about.
this is strictly for the
Okay,
the
that's
health
just for the
work.
health. Okay.
Is there anybody else that'd like to make comments? We have a very short agenda. I'd like to get through it as quickly as we can. Need some motions.
We have a motion to extend the emergency declaration issued by Mayor Ron Moser pertaining to the structure located at 500 Donner Avenue, Monessen, Pennsylvania 15062. Parcel ID 20-02-03-0-046. until a time that the risk posed by the structure is fully remediated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any questions? You want to explain why we even have to do this?
Yeah, under the third-class city code, the mayor has the authority to declare a state of emergency. However, it can only last for a period of 5 days. Thereafter, council has to vote to extend it, and that's what the motion reads tonight.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Orchowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nestor?
Aye.
Mr. Greger?
Aye.
Mr. Moser?
Yes. Need another motion here.
Motion to authorize WEC to prepare specifications for the emergency demolition of the structure located at 500 Donner Avenue.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Is there any questions?
Yeah. Tony, there you are. When you write up these specifications, that's going to include like making sure that there's the hazmat situation with asbestos and the pigeon guano up there is remediated.
Right now, I've had an email and a phone call into Tom Norris at DEP since Monday. I've learned from a demolition contractor that spoke to him on another matter that he is aware of the email. He's aware of what we need. He has an answer for me, but he doesn't want to give me the answer until it's verified through Pittsburgh office. So I was expecting an email today, because I want it in writing so we can include that information in the spec from his pen.
The DEP will be properly notified.
Well, this is high as far as the asbestos goes. Right now, the way it looks as though they will let us demolish, put brick in one pile, C&D waste in another pile. And they would selectively test. We have to have a 40-hour per week inspector on site. It'll need to be wetted at all times. And as it's tested, they'll determine, so the brick would remain for backfill in the foundation if the city wants to do it that way to save a little money. And the C&D waste would be hauled off to a waste.
Okay, that raises another question. I've been a volunteer fireman for over 30 years, and we've pumped that building out on numerous occasions. I've been informed, back in the past, I was informed that there's an aquifer that runs through that building. That's why it's always wet, even when there isn't any flooding. Like right now, the building's full of water. Where'd that water come from? It's not from the river. And if it is an aquifer, like they say, if you put brick and stuff in there, where's that water going to go? Is it going to come up out of the ground and go into 906? Are we going to be in a situation where we plug up an aquifer and we have water going elsewhere, perhaps flooding other buildings? Has anybody looked into that?
We tried to get it tested as recently as 2 weeks ago, and Hep went over there and said that it was full of ice. So I tried to be outside the box a little bit and borrow Tom's winch and drop him in. Rittenauer was going to go in and test it, but Joe and I discussed it. It didn't sound like a good idea to stick anyone in there because we don't have insurance if he gets hurt, first of all. That building's not selectively, what was the word that they used? It needs a rider. So in other words, if something falls off that building tonight, it's on the city.
Oh, I'm aware.
There's no coverage
I'm
whatsoever.
aware.
You need a
My only
specific
concern is
rider.
that that is an aquifer and you fill it with brick.
I mean,
Water's gotta go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I just learned yesterday that the uses of the building going through SHPO, like the county whipped up some stuff real quick, and it was a swimming pool at one time. So there's that urban legend. I didn't
Well,
know.
as far as water being in there all the time, that's not an urban legend.
Oh, I know that. I know that. We tried to pump it a week ago so he could test that basement. And it's not safe to go in there. So it's one of those things that they're gonna have to, when we get to it, we'll know the answer.
Yeah, well, my only concern is I think that you need to address that is, if it is aquifer, what are you gonna do with the water?
It's gotta be pumped anyway.
Yeah, but it's coming from somewhere, and if it is an aquifer, it's coming down off the hill, and it's going into that particular building. And if we plug that basement up with brick, where does the water go then?
I plugged it off. I have to see it personally. I mean,
Well, I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
I heard it from Matt, who was off,
Yeah.
and somehow it filled with water and it's crazy, so, you know, a lot of it, like 20%, so I don't know. I never heard it. Right now, I question the condition that you offer for the mill. I mean, that's, it may have been crushed 30 years ago, I don't know, I think the reason that basement
Well, even when the roof was good, it would fill up with water year-round, so. Again, I'm just telling you what I was told years ago. And if it is an aquifer and we plug it up, the water's gonna go somewhere.
Just a common, just kind of thinking about that. When it was totally frozen, it was effectively plugged up. It was frozen down there. They threw a brick down there and it was just ice. The point being is the aquifer was plugged up at that time.
Again, yes, but the water's not flowing, because it is plugged with ice, but when it thaws out, there'll be more
Well, it would
water.
not be plugged up underneath the ground. It'd only be plugged up in the building.
Perhaps. Well, I guess we'll have to see.
That's worth looking into, for sure.
that bill like we're using on Shawnee and Main Street.
I could look into that tomorrow. It's not expensive. You just go in and you fill the aquifer up.
Yeah, we need to be aware of that, though. I would hate to be in a situation where we tear it down, we plug it up, and then sometime in the fall, we're flooding 906. Just to be on the safe side, we need to make sure we have all our ducks in a row.
You can consider that in your specs.
Go off with her and inspect.
Well, I'm just curious, how are we going to address
I
it?
feel like if we can do this as a team effort,
Because there's gonna be some things I'm gonna miss in haste. I want, you know, how much time are we giving these guys to start work and finish? And you got, you know, all that stuff has to be in there, and this is not typical. It's an emergency, and I don't remember the last emergency we've done. This is the biggest building in town. So there's gonna be some things in there that are atypical, probably more in the line of legal than engineering. And it has to suit your needs. I don't want people coming back and saying, well, why didn't you think of this? I want everybody in on this, because I mean, I'm just a guy here.
Well, that's why I brought it to your attention.
I'm trying. I would,
the county would take it, they would take the inspect, they would take the inspection, inspect, the whole thing.
And that is still something we can consider. The problem is, my crystal ball doesn't work anymore. I can't say when it's going to collapse. I do know that there is new bricks on the road as of today. That scares me. If I had a crystal ball that worked, I could say, oh, that building's going to be there for 6 more months, and we got time to do all these different things and turn it over to the state or the county. If somebody's got a better crystal ball than me, I'm all ears, but I don't know when that's going to be fatal. And I do believe that left on its own, it will become a fatal problem. Somebody will be critically injured.
Right now, you can quantify what the cost is. Something like that happens tomorrow, and it could be lost of life. You have to assess the cost in addition to the
Absolutely. Are there any other questions on this motion? Could you call the roll?
I just had, John was asking a question. Is there anyone like, whether it's the mill or aluminum source, anywhere that might have fencing that we can actually, metal fencing like gates or links that we can put up down there? Because he was just saying someone was walking inside the orange, plastic stuff.
I saw that on the news today.
Right, so, maybe we can touch base with someone that, in the city who has maybe some of that fencing, the mill or aluminum source, they may have it.
At the very least, there needs to be some codes at the bottom of Fifth Street. That's wide open right now. I know codes aren't much of a deterrent, but we need to put something
That's true,
down
down
there.
there.
If you could get some fencing up, further up. And if we do start tearing that down,
Do we have to, come get this mic.
Keep in mind that once we award this, liability goes away.
So, part of the specifications of that,
Take the mic so everybody can hear what you're saying.
the contractor is going to be required to control that site. Part of that control is having some sort of barrier that people can't go on to that property.
that's the liability is the big issue.
Liability is the big issue.
Does anybody have any specific?
Anybody have any specific questions?
been revolving on this for about a week now. I feel like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. Yes, sir.
When they approve this tonight, when are we gonna start the project?
We gotta work through that. It has to be reasonable and fair. So, I mean,
The big issue, again, as Mr. Vitale said, it was, we're waiting for the DEP to give us, the city, some guidance on how to proceed with disposing of this material.
And the mayor said, what, within 48 hours you're gonna get it?
Well,
That's,
we're hopeful that we will see a change and receive some money very soon, very soon. Okay, my crystal ball is not
What
perfect.
about the guidelines? So when are we gonna get that? So you can start.
Well, let's just think about that, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. First off, there is still some DEP issues that need to be addressed. Make sure we understand what's being required. That may happen tomorrow, it may happen in a couple of days. He's still got to develop the specifications. And that doesn't just happen overnight, it's going to take him a couple of days to do that. But he's got to go out and identify the people that can accomplish the job and get numbers from them. All that can't just happen immediately. It will take several days to do. How many is several? I don't know.
Well, it's gonna go beyond your 5-day emergency.
Well, that's the reason why we did number one, to extend that until which time is this resolved.
the purpose of tonight's meeting, so they're gonna go through a quotation process based on these specifications. That's gonna protect the city, it's gonna protect the contractors, it's gonna protect everybody involved. The purpose of this meeting is to be able to move forward faster than normal.
Okay. Any other questions?
but just the more requirements that we put on them as far as time and mobilization, I would expect the price to increase. But it needs to be made perfectly clear to everyone that there's fill material located in town. I want everybody on the same page and probably should follow the guidelines set forth by the county. Now, I don't know if we're able to forego SHPO. I don't know how long that process would take. I think it depends on what part of money you pull from on this. So if you could forego SHPO and you're leaving it up to me, I would say we'd probably be able to have a spec by midweek. Probably pre-bid meeting with the contractors was something that's probably not a bad idea. I'm getting calls here and there and I'm giving answers selectively, and these people may, I think. My opinion on that is there's no bid spec been advertised, so I don't owe anyone an addendum. If they call me, I'll answer their question. And they've been, the questions vary. But I would think if we gave them 48 hours to get their bid in, you could probably award it probably the following Monday. So I'm thinking a week from Monday, best case scenario, if we don't have to do SHPO. And if we get a favorable response from DEP, which I anticipate.
And then they have to mobilize and.
They probably give them, I don't know what's typical in an emergency. I mean, is it 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours a week? All I care about right now is getting the building down. As far as them trucking stuff out of town, we could give them 60 days, 30 days, whatever it may take. But the people that I've talked to and have been referenced to me for this project are top notch. And I'm not going to say that there aren't other people that are top notch, but these are all good, qualified folks. Everyone.
Excellent.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Guys, got anything else?
I'd like to thank you for your perseverance. Yeah, thanks a lot. You guys are hitting on your shoulders.
It's not over yet, friend. When that building's down, I'll be buying, well, they don't sell beer at the Foster Shop.
Buy pizza.
Pizza.
Thank you.
All right, that's
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nestor?
Aye.
Mr. Greger?
Aye.
Mr. Moser?
Yes. The last motion, would somebody like to make it for me?
Motion to seek written quotations for the emergency demolition of the structure located at 500 Donner Avenue in accordance with section 11901.4B9 of the Third Class City Code, and to permit the mayor to award the contract.
Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Any questions?
We will be kept in the loop as far as the contract.
Everything I've done, I've tried to keep people
So
involved.
far, yes, you have. Yes, you have.
I will continue that. Any other questions?
Yeah. How did Comcast play the role to make the payment?
Comcast, I do not.
Nothing to do.
That's nothing to do with it. We didn't talk about that public comment. That had nothing to do with this. Okay, well, call the roll.
Ms. Thomas? Mr. Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nestor?
Aye.
Mr. Greger?
Aye.
Mr. Moser?
Aye. Now for public comment. Anybody have any public comment about anything?
I just want to thank you, Ryan, for doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Mayor.
I just want to ask, the paper said something about Comcast.
The Comcast is a franchise fee that they pay every year for things. That went in the general fund, that helps make payroll and things like that. Has nothing to do with this.
Does that also come from the Wi-Fi or the antennas they put up?
I really don't know.
Huh? Does it?
So it's, the city and all municipalities have a franchise agreement with Comcast, could be Verizon. They get a certain percentage of all the subscribers. So your internet, your phone, your home security system, now part of a package, the city gets 5%, I think, of that fee.
I was asking, how much percentage did they were able to kick in first?
Well, the total was $80,000, is that?
Is that what they come up with, 80,000?
No, I don't know the answer. Ask our chief financial officer.
It was in the mid-30s, 35, 36,000, what it was. And payroll was 65 something. I'd have to look at my phone, I have it. And it able to, with Comcast, we were up to $80,000 in the general fund, which was more than enough to cover payroll.
Do you have anything left from the garbage fees?
No. Well, whatever's still people still paying, of course, that would just continue to trickle in.
Is that gonna help you for the next payroll?
I have no idea if we're gonna make next payroll.
You should. You should.
I don't make promises I can't keep.
Would you know the next meeting, next week?
We take it day by day to see what we bring in. I mean, there's a balancing act right now. I mean, right now, after payroll, there's gonna be about $20-some thousand left in the general fund. And everybody needs to also remember, we have bills. We have to keep the lights on. We have to keep heat. The city has to pay its electrical bills for all the telephone pole lights. There's lots of things. Security, there's a lot of things that we have gotten pushed back a little bit. It's not pretty. I'm just gonna tell you, it's not pretty.
And then what about the gasoline for the vehicle?
That's another one that has to get paid.
Ron, you gonna kick in again or what?
I was actually reimbursed, so that's not a problem.
You're right. There's that. There's insurance for the employees. There's a lot of things.
Any other public comments?
Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.
Our-
I would like to take a motion for adjournment.
Mayor, motion to adjourn today's meeting at 7 PM on February 16, 2022.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Nestor?
Aye.
Mr. Greger?
Aye.
Mr. Moser?
Yes. Thank you, everybody.